Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your man, Rudy Rush, and welcome to another exciting episode of... I know everybody's getting ready to start bidding on the product of the day, and you do not want to miss this because you know what? Our guest is going to sign it in person. And just remember this. This is the only place that you can get that item, all right? So let me bring our guest out. Now, this he goes by many names. I know his family calls him this and his friends call him that. But you know what? If you're in LA and you hear somebody say, yo, Coop, only one person answers to that. Welcome to the show, my man, Mr. Michael Cooper. What's up, Mike?
No, my pleasure for being here, and thank you for having me. It's been a fun ride, and who would know that it would get to this point in time? But you know what? I've enjoyed my years, and ever since I've retired, I've pretty much talked to most players that have retired. Everybody's doing good, and that's what I love about our generation. I think we did a better job of taking care of ourselves, and it's good to see older players still here.
Mr. Michael Cooper. Now, Mike, I've been a fan for years. I watched you in wars with the Celtics, the Sixers, everybody. But one thing that people don't know about you, and I just found out myself, actually, you grew up in the Los Angeles area. So as a kid, did you ever envision playing for the Lakers? And when you finally got to be a part of such a great legacy, how was that for you?
No, never. I mean, for me, basketball back in the 60s and 70s was a ways and a means to an education. I grew up in a small family, but I grew up with my grandmother, and she had 10 kids, and they had kids. So there was like 18 of us in a house. I remember we always lived in the big house. But being here from Pasadena, my family didn't have the kind of money to send me away to a 4-year college. So I was using basketball as a tool to get my education. The true meaning of student athlete has to mean something to our kids, because a lot of kids have aspirations of getting there, but they don't understand how many pros come out of college every year trying to become a pro. So for me, it was just playing basketball, having fun, coming up with a lot of great West Coast players, Dennis Johnson, the late Dennis Johnson, just to name a few, all of us from here. Playing basketball, and I figured in 1978, after I went away to college, that I would get drafted because most of the West Coast players were getting drafted back east. So I remember the day of the draft, I was like, and my name had been mentioned. I was saying, okay, all I want to do is just get an invitation to a camp. So I went out and bought me this big jacket, a fur coat that I thought I'd be back in Chicago or New York or Detroit, one of the places where it snowed. I said, I'll be ready for it. And I was down at the park playing, and my cousins came down. They go, Michael, you got drafted. I was like, what? Yeah, okay, who? By who? The Los Angeles Lakers. I was kind of shocked at first, but I immediately went and returned my jacket and got my money back for that. And I knew that I was going to make LA my home coming from here, because I hate cold weather. I love LA.
All right, so we're about to get started, but you know what? We got a couple of viewers that want to ask some questions. I hope you're ready for that. Yeah. We got my man on the line right now. What's your name? Where you from?
Martin, from Land of the Sonics, Seattle.
The Sonics, man. Let me ask you a question before you get into it with Coop. Now, you guys haven't had a basketball team out there for a while, but there's some talks about bringing back another team. How do you feel about that, Martin?
As long as they're named the Sonics, we need one, yeah.
And I hope that works. But anyway, we got your man, Cooper, Showtime Laker great. What question do you have for him?
Celtics or Pistons, which one did you hate to go against?
You know, when you see the color green, you get envious. So green was my color, and I'm pretty sure you knew that. But it was the Boston Celtics. And the reason it was the Celtics is because growing up here in Los Angeles in the 60s, Tom, my uncle, we weren't allowed to call him Uncle Tom, but his name was Tom, so I had to call Tom my uncle, was a big Boston Celtics fan. And in the 60s, he used to make us come and sit down and watch TV, and he would say, Michael, listen, this is how basketball is supposed to be played. Sam Jones, John Havlicek, all those great Celtic players, and the way they moved the ball, Bill Russell blocking shots, they played as a team. So that's how I got introduced to team basketball. But all those years, 60s, 70s, watching the Lakers and the Laker team, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt, never being able to get over that hump of the Celtics. For some reason, that little leprechaun was sitting up there knocking shots away, and the Lakers could just never beat them. So the Boston rivalry was something special, and it's deep-seated all the way back. I watched that, and now I had the opportunity to be part of that big-time rivalry, the Celtics. So I'm going to take it a little step further, and I know you're going to talk about this, but our championships, but our 85 championship is the championship I hold the dearest because it was like redemption, making up for all the Laker teams that could never beat the Celtics, and that was our first year beating them and getting rid of that Boston mystique. So, but all our championships are important, but that team there, the rivalry, and again, you go back a little bit, with Bird and Magic. You can't say one of those players' names without saying the other. Really brought that rivalry to life, taking it from college, Indiana State and Michigan, and then Michigan State, and then bringing it to the pros with something special. And Detroit was a good team too, but Boston is a team that we really look forward to playing. And it's kind of like, okay, if you beat them, you can legitimately say that you're the champion. And, you know, we beat the Sixers and we beat Detroit, but that Boston team was something that always got us ready and ready to play every year.
Yo, I always thought it was the Pistons because them dudes was grimy. I mean, Bill Laimbeer, those dudes. I mean, I know you got stories about that. But listen, Martin, what's your next question?
So how did it feel to beat the Celtics in 85?
Let's jump back 1 year to 1984. We got an opportunity to play them. And losing that year brought back all those ghosts from the past, the 60s and 70s. That really haunted us and bothered us. So that particular is the end of that season, and we lost in Boston. Fans running out on the court. We made a committed effort as a team in that locker room that night is that we'll never, ever let this happen again. And from that day forward, nobody took a vacation right after that. You know, you might have went on vacation for a week or two, but usually NBA players will take 3 or 4 weeks off a month, you know, and then you kind of get back into shape in training camp. No, we all got ready. So when we came to training camp in 1985, everybody was in their best condition. So as we go through that season and playing, our whole mission was to get back to the finals, and we were praying, hoping that Boston would get there because we wanted to see them again. And you know what? The basketball guys worked that out to perfection. Oh. We got a chance to get there. We laid a royal ass whipping on them. Use my language, but I'm going to be serious about it. We laid one. Hey. When we finally, that champagne, you know what? It's almost undescribable in there because it was kind of like euphoric. We were like, okay, we've been waiting for this moment. It's here. Wow. I mean, it was kind of like speechless, but you know what? Everybody connected eyes, and we knew that we had accomplished something special, and just to have our fans. And it was more so, and Pat Riley hits this right on the head. He always used to say, you guys play for the fans because they make who you are and they make us the team that we are. And when we won, all I kept thinking about was the fans back in LA. The fans back in LA finally they can say we beat the Boston Celtics. But champagne was flowing. It was great. The ride back home was fantastic. But when we got back to the airport and saw those fans out there, it made that win and the loss in 84 all that much better.
Yo, that championship was so crazy. I remember it like it was yesterday. We got pancakes the next day. If the Lakers didn't win, we ain't get no pancakes. So thank you for that, Coop. And thank you, Martin, for all your questions, bro. Hopefully you get a team out there in Seattle at some point. But take care of yourself and good luck on your bid.
Thank you.
All right, Coop. I ain't want to butt in, but when you said the Celtics, I was feeling you. But really, those fights you guys had against Detroit was unbelievable. The Pistons, really, those two series went down in history as some of the most tough, hard-fought series. How did you manage that? How did you handle that?
You know, I hated Boston, the Celtics. I hated them just for the color green, but I despised the Pistons. Ooh, bad boys. What kind of nickname was that? You know, you had all these guys that were great players, and you're right. They brought a different style of basketball to the game. Boston was tough. These guys were across the line, was straight out dirty. And I think the thing that Detroit brought to us, along with that Michigan thing that Magic and Isaiah had and being the love of Michigan where he's from, it was kind of like a heartfelt thing for him. So we had to get over that hump. But you know what? Playing that team was almost playing a mirror image of us. Because, yeah, we had Kareem and they had James Edwards. They had Bill Laimbeer. who's the dirtiest guy. I cannot stand that guy today. Rick Mahorn, who I hate him too. I can say I hate the whole team. Actually, I like Isaiah a little bit, but the whole team, you hated them. But you know what? You had to respect those guys, because they came to play. And yes, they crashed the party in a big way. They came there and they got rid of the Bulls with Jordan, a young Jordan. They took care of Dr. J. Lim. They took care of Boston, and they did everything they had to do. And I say this to this day. If Magic and Byron Scott had not gotten hurt in 1989, we would have three-peated their ass and it would have been all over with then. But you know what? You had to be ready, because you had to go hand-to-hand combat with those guys, because once you get there, you'll do almost whatever it takes to win, and we were able to get those guys in 1988.
Yo, Coop, it was crazy. Bill Lamb, Ben Mahorn, those dudes, I was afraid for you guys, and I was a kid. Let me just tell everybody else, the special item is on the shot clock right now. You can get it for the special price. The clock is ticking. All right, you see the shot clock. So Coop,
you said the shot clock. Y'all get out there and buy, pay whatever it is. You always talk about the shot clock going out. Coach, put me in. We putting you in the game, baby. Come on now. We need y'all.
But anyway, we got another viewer that has a question. You ready for another question, Coop? All right, we got DJ. What's up, DJ? What's your question for Coop?
Going on, Coop? How you doing?
Okay, Desmond, but you know what? For this show, I'm going to call you DJ. I like nicknames. DJ, I'm doing wonderful, baby. I'm all right.
I always wonder if I'd ever get a chance to ask you this question. Where did the knee-high socks come from, and how did they stay up?
That whole persona of me, the two sweatbands, I used to wear my strings out and my socks up high. And the reason that was because in 1974, in high school, our team was all African-American players, and my grandmother had glaucoma. And it was the first high school game of the week that they had done in like about 5 or 6 years. And we were playing El Rancho. I'll never forget this. And my grandmother said, Michael, you have to do something to distinguish yourself so I can tell it's you. So I went out and bought me some baseball socks, the high baseball socks. I bought 2 pair of those, poured them up high. Our uniforms were red and white. So I pulled my strings out so that she could see that, and I wore 2 white sweatbands. And DJ, I had the game of my life. I had 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 blocks. And we ended up winning that game. We ended up winning the game by like 10 or 12. First high school game of the week they had ever had in a while, which they have brought back since then. But I said, you know what? If I would like to think of my grandmother praying for me and encouraging me. But I said, if this attire help me do this, I'm gonna stick with it, and that's where it started.
Wow. Yeah, I've never
stayed up because when you get to the pros, they give you some expensive socks, so that's why they stayed up.
So there you go, right there. So yeah, I've never heard that story before. That's incredible. That's great. And then you continued on with it through the pros. Of course, I feel if you had like a 3-point game and maybe 2 rebounds that first time out wearing them, maybe you wouldn't continue to wear those high socks.
Oh, I would have definitely changed. I'd taken them off and wore short socks like everybody else.
Yo, thank y'all for joining us for another excellent show. Thank you for Michael Cooper dropping by. Laker great. You can't get no better than that. Lockdown defender. Told us some great stories about the Celtics, the Pistons, some inside scoops. Big shouts out to our viewers. DJ Martin for calling in, and for you, of course, for viewing the show and logging on to mycavemyrulez.com to get that merchandise. That's right. You can only get it here. Shamir Rudy Rush. Till next time. Peace.